Good morning, all of you. My name is Manoj Dharmawardhana. Sandun is also here with me. So today we are going to talk about the laws of UX. Laws of UX means laws that we should follow in UX design. So this is today's agenda. We are going to talk about Fitt law, law of proximity, Miller's law, Zeigarnik Effect, Jacob's law, Hicks law, law of similarity, and serial position effect. First one is Fitt's law. Fitt's law is widely applied in user experience and user interface design. For example, this law influences the convention of making interactive buttons large, especially on finger-operated mobile devices. Smaller buttons are more difficult because it's very time-consuming due to get the target to click. Likewise, the distance between users' task area and the task-related button should be kept as short as possible. It makes the user more comfortable. One of the most important lessons we can take from Fitt's law is that while a large button is clearly easier to click on, but it isn't necessarily the most optimal. So second one is law of proximity. The law of proximity describes how the human eye perceives connection between visual elements. Elements that are close to each other are perceived to be related when compared with elements that are separate from each other. This principle applies even if the element differ in color, shape, size, or other characteristics. You can see the law of proximity applied to most web pages, apps, remote controls, business cards, and all interfaces and designs. Let's focus some examples. This is some kind of shopping website. Most navigation menus provide simple example of the law of proximity in action. Notice that the navigation menu items are spaced evenly apart using spaced search bar. Then there's the profile, watch list, back icon buttons. This lack of proximity helps to indicate to website visitors that these three items are secondary navigation items. In other example, this is one of the product page of Amazon. Product pages are also great examples of the law of proximity. Notice this product page, the image, star rating, title, and price for each product are all in close proximity. This conveys to the reader that all this information is related to one product. White space is then used to separate one product from another. So you can see this law is very important for this UX industry. And next one is Miller's law. For example, let's take a phone number. All of us memorize our phone numbers of our friends or relatives. For most people, the numbers are easier to remember in smaller groups, 3 or 5 like that. So according to this law, people can remember up to 7 different elements in their working memory. That is why the menus and options in a web page more or less are based on this size, 7. Having more than 7 elements generates confusion and loss of focus for some users who is no longer able to remember where the option that he now is looking for. Because of this case, that is why in application or services that have a multitude of options, they are grouped to reduce the memory load. Next one is Zeigarnik Effect. When we start working on something but do not finish it, thoughts of the unfinished work continue to pop up into our mind even when we have moved on to other things. Such thoughts urge us to go back and finish the things we have already begun. It's why we keep thinking about that page turner, or why we want to finish playing a video game until we win. Unfinished work continues to exert an influence even when we try to move on other things. Applying this concept to the UX, for example, LinkedIn, PayPal, and many more platforms use this trick to make users complete their profiles and many other things as well. In LinkedIn, it has a profile strength indicator which includes a link that says improve your profile strength. Once we click on it, we will see all the things we can do to our profile complete and make profile level up. So this is one of the technique that is preferred to keep the users more time to interact with relevant platforms. So thank you. Sandun will explain the other UX laws to you. Sandun, to you.
Thank you, Manoj. Good morning, all of you. I am Sandun Rajapaksha. I am also talk about few more UX laws. First one is Jacob law. Users spend most of their time on other sites. This means that users prefer your site to work the same way as all the other sites they already know. This law was defined by the director of the Nelson Roman Group, Mr. Jacob Nelson, who is the design family. With that in mind, designers need to focus on using patterns and communications that their users are accustomed to. This can be an area such as workflows, page navigation, structure, and placement of common elements. This prevents users from feeling overwhelmed by learning a new mental model or process, and indeed empower them keep engaging with our interfaces. Next slide. A great example is designing a page with a search bar. Users are accustomed to see a search bar near the top of a page, often with the magnifying glass icon. If a designer decides to place the search bar in a completely new place on a website, it can create confusion for the user. If they want to continue using the site, they have to relearn where the search bar is, and it takes extra time. Next one is Fitt's law. The time it takes to make a decision increase with the number of complexity of choices. These days, it seems like users have so many of them, which is why understanding Hicks' law is vital. Hicks' law says that users spend more time making a decision based on the number and complexity of choices. The more choices you present with your users, the longer time it will take them to reach a decision. I think everyone visited Netflix at least one time. So, if you remember the last time you visited Netflix and try to find a movie to watch, sometimes it takes more time to find a movie rather than watch it. The reason for that is the number of options. You cannot get a decision fastly for that reason. Next, to successfully implement Hicks' law into our design, we can try these steps. First one is break up law processes into steps. Each step should have a clear purpose for the user to follow. You can categorize choices to make them easier to search for and identify. Last one is use progressive relevant additional information when needed. When following these 3 steps, we can implement Hicks' law into our design perfectly. The next one is law of similarity. The human eye tends to see similar elements in a design as a complete picture, shape, or group, even if those elements are separated. In the image here, I think you probably see the grouping of colored circles as rows rather than just a collection of circles. According to the law of similarity, the elements that be visually similar will be received as related color, shape, size, orientation, and movement can signal that elements belong to the same group and likely share a common meaning of functionality. Next one. If you remember, when you use Google search engine, this is why click link have a different color in contrast. Google's purple color for link you visited in a prime example for a law of similarity. Next one is serial position effect. Serial position effect is people best remember the first and last item in a given sequence. The serial position effect is a physiological phenomenon that states that items at the beginning and item at the end of a list of information are easily recalled than items in the middle. If you remember, the first item in a list is because it is the first thing you have see when you start scanning a page, and you remember the last item on the list because it's the last thing you see on a page, and after end up your short-term memory. For example, for that, next slide, look at how Twitter's tweet option and Matic are both going to the extreme right for easy recall. The serial position effect key takeaways for designers is consider this effect when delivering information to users or display navigation options. It is the reason that many mobile apps put the home and profile items in the way to the left-hand side. You can see in this picture, whether you are a UX designer or an experienced product marketer, we need to know the foundation of UX laws. These UX laws guide product design as they shed light on physiological behind user expectation. Therefore, following items is a must for everyone aiming to create a winning design. There are mainly 21 UX laws, and in today we look at some of them as time we had, and another day we try to discuss others law also. If you have a problem with what we talk about today, please feel free to share anything regarding this. Thank you for all.